The boot slammed into Marcus Cole's chest with enough force to send coffee exploding across the table. His 8-year-old daughter screamed as 3 officers in pressed uniforms laughed above them. "Stay down, mop boy," Captain Derek Stone sneered. "Know your place." But something was wrong. The janitor didn't fall. He didn't cry out. He simply absorbed the blow like it was nothing, like he'd taken worse in places these officers couldn't pronounce. And when he slowly rose to his feet, every soldier in that cafeteria felt the temperature drop. They had no idea they'd just attacked a ghost, a legend, a man who'd buried more enemies than they'd ever meet. Marcus Cole had learned to become invisible. It wasn't hard. 42 years old, graying at the temples, wearing the same faded work shirt 5 days a week. He pushed a mop across the same floors, emptied the same trash cans, nodded at the same soldiers who never bothered to learn his name. That was the point. Invisible men didn't get asked questions. Invisible men didn't have to explain the scar that ran from their left ear to their jaw. Invisible men could pick up their daughters from school at 3:15, help with homework at 4 o'clock, and be in bed by 9 without anyone wondering where they'd been for the 20 years before. Marcus Cole liked being invisible. It was the only way he knew how to stay human. Fort Braxton Military Base sat 40 miles outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina, close enough to civilization to have decent schools, far enough to feel like its own world. Marcus had chosen it carefully 3 years ago, when he'd needed to disappear. The irony wasn't lost on him. Hiding on a military base, surrounding himself with soldiers every day. But that was the trick. Nobody expects a ghost to haunt the same house twice. Besides, the job had benefits. Health care for Lily, a small apartment in base housing, and most importantly, a schedule predictable enough that his daughter never had to wonder when Daddy was coming home. That had been his wife Sarah's last request. "Promise me she'll always know you're coming back." He'd promised. 3 years later, he still kept it. The morning of October 14th started like every other. Marcus woke at 5 a.m., old habits. He made Lily's lunch, peanut butter and honey sandwich, apple slices, 2 Oreos hidden at the bottom because she'd smile when she found them. He ironed her school uniform while she slept, then woke her gently at 6 o'clock. 5 more minutes, she mumbled into her pillow. "That's what you said 5 minutes ago." "Then I need 10 more." He smiled. She had her mother's negotiation skills. "Tell you what, get dressed in 3 minutes and we'll stop at the cafeteria for waffles before school." Lily's eyes opened. "With the little syrup cups?" "As many as you want." She was dressed in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The base cafeteria at 6:30 a.m. was a study in military hierarchy. Officers clustered near the windows, the good tables with natural light and a view of the parade grounds. Senior enlisted took the middle section, trading complaints about paperwork and weekend duty rosters. Junior enlisted grabbed whatever was left, eating fast before morning PT. And civilians? Civilians sat wherever they could find space without bothering anyone. Marcus guided Lily to a corner table near the kitchen, far from the windows, close to the exit. Old instincts. He'd positioned himself with his back to the wall before he even realized he was doing it. "Daddy, why do we always sit here?" "Because it's cozy." "Emily's dad says corners are for people who don't have friends." "Emily's dad sounds like he talks too much." Lily giggled. "He does. Mom always said—" She stopped. The word hung in the air between them. Marcus reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "What did Mom say?" "She said some people fill silence with noise because they're scared of what they'll hear if they listen. Your mom was the smartest person I ever knew." Smarter than you? Much smarter than me. Lily smiled, but her eyes were sad. She was only 8, but she carried grief like someone much older. That was Marcus's fault. He'd tried to shield her from the worst of it, but children see everything. They just process it differently. I miss her, Lily said quietly. Me too, sweetheart. Every single day. The waffle arrived with 4 small syrup cups, exactly as promised. Marcus watched Lily arrange them in a perfect row before opening the first one. She had rituals for everything, a way of creating order in a world that had shown her how quickly things could fall apart. He understood. He had his own rituals. The way he checked every exit when entering a room. The way he positioned silverware so it could be grabbed quickly if needed. The way he never, ever sat with his back to a door. Some habits you couldn't unlearn. You just learned to hide them better. Daddy? Yeah? Why do people stare at your neck sometimes? Marcus's hand moved unconsciously to his scar. Because it looks different. Does it hurt? Not anymore. How did you get it? He'd rehearsed this answer 100 times. I was in an accident a long time ago, before you were born. What kind of accident? The kind that teaches you to be more careful. Lily studied him with her mother's eyes, green and sharp and impossible to lie to. You always say that, but you never tell me what really happened. Because some stories are for when you're older. How much older? Old enough to understand that sometimes good people have to do hard things. Lily considered this while drowning her waffle in syrup. Is that why you have the tattoo? The one you hide? Marcus's blood went cold. He kept that tattoo covered. Always. Long sleeves in summer, wristwatch positioned just so, careful attention to how his arms moved. Where did you see that? Last week, when you were fixing the sink. Your sleeve came up. What did it look like? A knife and lightning. It was cool, like a superhero symbol. Marcus forced himself to breathe. She didn't know what it meant. She couldn't. It was just a drawing to her. Something interesting that Daddy had hidden away. It's just something from when I was younger, he said carefully. From a job I used to have. What job? I helped people. Like a doctor? Something like that. Lily accepted this with the easy trust of a child who still believed her father could never lie to her. Marcus hated himself for it, but some truths were too heavy for 8-year-old shoulders. The dagger crossed with lightning. Phantom cell. We don't exist until we need to. He pushed the memory down and focused on his daughter's smile. That was his job now. That was his only mission. The cafeteria door slammed open at 6:47 a.m. Marcus didn't look up. He didn't need to. The sound told him everything. Someone making an entrance, demanding attention, announcing their presence to a room that hadn't asked. He kept his eyes on Lily's waffle, his posture relaxed, his breathing steady. Don't engage. Don't draw attention. Stay invisible. Well, well, well. The voice was young, confident. The kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Marcus still didn't look up. He heard boots approaching, 3 sets, moving in formation. Officers, probably. The walk was too arrogant for enlisted. Briggs, Harmon, you seeing this? I see it, Captain. Civilian in our section, eating our food, at our table. Marcus finally raised his eyes. 3 men stood over them, all late 20s, early 30s. 2 lieutenants flanking a captain whose uniform looked like it had been pressed that morning by someone who actually cared. His nameplate read Stone. Captain Derek Stone. Marcus recognized the name. He'd heard it whispered around the base. The general's son. The golden boy. The man who'd never seen real combat, but wore his medals like he'd earned them in blood. "Can I help you?" Marcus asked quietly. "Yeah, you can help me by moving. This section is for officers." "I don't see a sign." Stone's eyes narrowed. "The sign is me telling you." Lily had stopped eating. Her hands were shaking slightly. She always got nervous around loud voices. Too many memories of hospitals and funerals and adults crying when they thought she couldn't hear. Marcus placed his hand over hers. Steady. Warm. "We're almost done," he said to Stone. 5 minutes. 5 minutes is 4 minutes too long. Stone pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited, his lieutenants taking positions on either side. "You know what I hate about civilians on base? I have a feeling you're going to tell me. They think they belong here. They think because they push a mop or type some reports, they're part of something. But they're not. They're just help." Marcus said nothing. "What's your name, mop boy?" "Cole. Marcus Cole." Cole. Stone rolled the name around like he was tasting something sour. "And who's this? Your kid?" "My daughter." "Cute. She got a mother? Or did she run off when she saw what she'd married?" The air in Marcus's lungs went cold. He felt something shift inside him. Something that had been sleeping for 3 years. Something with teeth. "Don't. Not here. Not in front of Lily." "Her mother passed away," Marcus said, his voice flat. "Cancer." It was a lie. The cancer part, anyway. Sarah had been killed in Syria, shot in the head while trying to extract intelligence assets after their mission was compromised by someone inside their own command structure. Someone who was never caught. Someone who Marcus had spent his last year in service trying to find before the grief broke something inside him. But cancer was easier. Cancer didn't invite questions. Stone's expression didn't change. If anything, his smile widened. "That's tough. Real tough. So you're what, playing single dad now?" "Cute uniform. Very convincing." "Daddy," Lily whispered, "can we go?" "In a minute, sweetheart." "Actually," Stone said, leaning forward, "I think you can go now. In fact, I insist." He picked up Lily's waffle plate and set it aside. Then he picked up Marcus's coffee cup and slowly, deliberately, turned it upside down. The coffee spilled across the table in a brown river, running over the edge and splashing onto Lily's dress. She gasped. Tears sprang to her eyes. "Oops," Stone said. "Clumsy me." Marcus watched the coffee drip onto the floor, drop by drop, each one landing like a countdown. "You're going to apologize to my daughter," he said quietly. Stone laughed. "Excuse me?" "You have 5 seconds. "Or what?" Marcus looked up, and for the first time since sitting down, he let Stone see something real. It was just a flicker, a half-second glimpse of something behind his eyes, something cold and patient and very, very dangerous. Stone's laugh caught in his throat. "Or what?" he repeated, but the bravado had cracked slightly. 4 seconds. "Listen, I don't know who you think." 3. "Briggs, Harmon, can you believe this guy?" The lieutenants shifted uncomfortably. They'd noticed something their captain hadn't. The way Marcus was sitting. The perfect stillness. The controlled breathing of someone who was measuring distances and calculating angles without even thinking about it. "Captain," Briggs said slowly, "maybe we should—" 2. "Okay, that's it." Stone stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I don't know what kind of tough guy act you're trying to pull, mop boy, but let me explain something. My father is General Raymond Stone, 2 stars. I could have you fired, evicted, and banned from this base with a single phone call. 1. So why don't you take your little sob story about your dead wife and your sad little daughter and— Marcus moved. Not fast, not aggressive. He simply stood from his chair, his movements so fluid and controlled that Stone actually stepped back without realizing it. They were the same height, but the similarity ended there. Stone had the soft look of someone who trained in air-conditioned gyms. Marcus had the worn hardness of someone who trained in places that didn't appear on maps. I warned you, Marcus said quietly. 5 seconds. That was your window. You warning me? Stone's voice rose. You're a janitor. You clean toilets for a living. You're nothing. Daddy. Lily's voice was small, frightened. Marcus glanced at his daughter. Her eyes were wide, her cheeks wet with tears, her small body trembling in her seat. He took a breath, then another. Not in front of her, not now. She's already seen too much. Lily, he said softly, go wait by the door. But, now, sweetheart, it's okay. I'll be right there. Lily hesitated, then slid out of the booth and walked quickly toward the exit, clutching her backpack with both hands. Marcus watched her go. Then he turned back to Stone. Your father is General Stone, he said calmly. 3rd Infantry Division. Served in Iraq during the initial invasion. Distinguished Service Medal. Bronze Star. Legion of Merit. Stone blinked. How do you— He also sat behind a desk in Baghdad while his men were dying in Fallujah. Never fired his weapon in combat. Never saw a single enemy combatant face to face. His medals came from knowing the right people, not from being the right person. Stone's face went red. You don't know anything about my father. I know everything about your father. I know about the convoy ambush in 2005 that killed 12 men because he ignored intelligence warnings. I know about the investigation that was buried. I know about the families who never got answers. That's a lie. It's in the classified files. File number 7749-alpha. I'd tell you to look it up, but you don't have the clearance. And you do? A janitor? Marcus smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. I'm not a janitor, Captain. That's just what I do now. Then what are you? Exactly what you see. A father trying to have breakfast with his daughter. But you couldn't leave it alone. You had to push. You had to prove something. Stone's fists clenched. You're crazy. Maybe, but I'm also the only person in this room who knows that your unit in Afghanistan didn't just fail a mission. They caused it to fail. They sold information to local warlords. They got American assets killed. And someone covered it up. Stone's face went white. How do you— Because I was the one sent to clean up the mess. The words hung in the air like smoke. Stone took another step back. His lieutenants exchanged nervous glances. Clean up the mess, Briggs repeated. What does that mean? Marcus kept his eyes on Stone. It means someone in Washington decided that certain loose ends needed to be tied. It means I spent 3 weeks in the mountains of Kandahar tracking down everyone who knew what your unit did. It means 12 people who thought they'd gotten away with treason learned otherwise. You're lying. Am I? Marcus tilted his head slightly. Then why are you sweating? Why is your hand shaking? Why do you look like you just saw a ghost? Stone's jaw tightened. I don't know what game you're playing. No game, just breakfast. But you ruined that. Marcus stepped closer. You spilled coffee on my daughter's dress. You insulted her mother. You made her cry. I didn't— You did. I warned you. I gave you 5 seconds. You chose not to listen. So what are you going to do? Hit me? In front of all these witnesses? Go ahead. My father will have you in prison before lunch." Marcus laughed softly. It was not a reassuring sound. "Hit you? Captain, if I wanted to hit you, this conversation would have ended 30 seconds ago. You'd be on the floor with a dislocated shoulder, wondering how you got there. Your friends would be trying to decide whether to help you or run. And everyone in this cafeteria would be telling their grandchildren about the morning a janitor dismantled 3 officers in 4 seconds. He let the words settle. "But I don't do that anymore. I made a promise. So instead, I'm going to walk out that door, take my daughter to school, and come back here to finish my shift. And you're going to let me." "Why would I do that?" "Because somewhere in that privileged brain of yours, you understand something. You understand that you've made a mistake. You understand that you've picked a fight you can't win. And you understand that the smartest thing you can do right now is walk away." Stone stared at him. His chest was heaving, his face flushed with humiliation and rage. "This isn't over," he said through gritted teeth. "It is if you're smart. Nobody talks to me like this." Maybe that's the problem. Briggs touched Stone's arm. "Captain, let's just go. This isn't worth it." Stone shrugged him off violently. "Don't touch me!" "Derek, I said don't touch me!" Stone was trembling now, with anger, with embarrassment, with something that might have been fear. "You think you can talk to me like that? You think you can threaten me?" "I didn't threaten you. I informed you." "Same thing." "No. Threats are for people who might not follow through." The silence that followed was absolute. Stone's face cycled through emotions: rage, confusion, doubt, and finally something that looked almost like recognition, like he was finally seeing the man in front of him clearly. "Who are you?" he whispered. Marcus leaned closer, close enough that only Stone could hear. "I'm nobody. A ghost. And ghosts don't exist until they need to." He stepped back, straightened his shirt, and turned toward the door. "Enjoy your breakfast, Captain. And next time you want to prove how important you are, pick on someone your own size." He walked away without looking back. Behind him, the cafeteria sat in stunned silence. Stone stood frozen, his lieutenants watching him uncertainly, his face pale as paper. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. And outside, Marcus Cole took his daughter's hand and walked her toward school, wondering how long he could keep the ghost buried before someone forced it back to life. Lily didn't speak until they were halfway to the school building. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "That man was scared of you. At the end. I saw his face." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Some people get scared when they realize they're wrong." "But you didn't do anything. You just talked to him." "Sometimes words are enough." "Mom used to say that. She said you were scary good at talking." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Your mom said a lot of things." "She also said that most people never see the real you, that you keep it hidden." His step faltered, just for a moment. "What else did she say?" "That the real you was wonderful, and dangerous, and sad." Lily looked up at him with those green eyes, her mother's eyes. "Is that true?" Marcus stopped walking. He knelt down until he was at her level, the morning sun warm on their faces, the sounds of the bass carrying on around them like they were in their own small world. "I'm going to tell you something," he said carefully, "and I need you to remember it." "Okay." "Before you were born, I had a different job. A hard job. I helped people who were in trouble. People who didn't have anyone else to help them." "Like a superhero?" "No, not a superhero. Superheroes don't make the choices I made. They don't carry the things I carry.
What things?
He touched her cheek gently. The knowledge that I wasn't always good. That I did what I had to do to protect people, even when it meant doing bad things. Even when it meant becoming someone I didn't want to be. Lily's forehead wrinkled.
But you're good now.
I try to be. Every day, I try.
Then why does it matter what you did before?
Marcus felt something catch in his throat. Because the person I was, he's still inside me, waiting. And sometimes people poke him, like that captain. They poke and push and think they can get away with it because they don't know what they're poking.
What happens if they poke too hard?
Then he wakes up.
And he does things I promised you I wouldn't do anymore.
Lily was quiet for a long moment.
The captain poked really hard today, she said finally.
He did.
But you didn't wake up. Not all the way.
No, not all the way.
Because of me?
Marcus pulled her into a hug. Because of you. Because your mom asked me to be better. Because being your dad is more important than anything I ever did before. Lily hugged him back fiercely.
I don't care who you were, she whispered. You're my daddy. That's all that matters.
He held her for a long moment, the 8-year-old wisdom of his daughter cutting through decades of guilt and regret. I love you, Lily.
I love you too, even the scary parts.
He laughed softly. Even the scary parts?
Especially those, because they keep us safe.
Marcus dropped Lily at school with a kiss on the forehead and a promise to pick her up at 3:15. Then he walked back to the cafeteria to finish his shift. The mop was waiting where he'd left it. The floors still needed cleaning. And somewhere across the base, Captain Derek Stone was making a phone call to his father. A phone call that would set in motion events that neither of them could control. The ghost had been poked. And ghosts, once disturbed, don't always go back to sleep. The phone call came through at 7:23 a.m. General Raymond Stone was in the middle of his morning briefing when his personal cell buzzed. The private number that only 3 people in the world had access to. He excused himself from the conference room, stepped into the hallway, and answered on the second ring. Derek, this better be important. Dad, we have a problem. The general sighed. Derek always had problems. Usually they involved money, women, or some combination of both. 29 years old and still calling his father to clean up his messes. What is it this time? There's a janitor on base. He knows things. Things he shouldn't know. A janitor? Derek, I don't have time for... He mentioned file 7749-alpha. The general went silent. Dad? You there? Where did you hear that number? He said it. This morning, in the cafeteria. He knew about the convoy. He knew about the investigation. He knew about the cover-up. Raymond Stone felt something cold settle in his stomach. That file number hadn't been spoken aloud in 15 years. The investigation had been buried so deep that even most Pentagon brass didn't know it existed. Who is this man? His name is Cole, Marcus Cole. He works maintenance on base. Describe him. Early 40s, gray hair, has a scar running from his ear to his jaw. The cold in Raymond's stomach turned to ice. Dad? Don't talk to him again. Don't go near him. Don't even look at him. Do you understand me?
What? Why? Who is he?
Just do what I tell you, Derek. I need to make some calls.
But he embarrassed me in front of everyone. He threatened me.
Did he touch you?
No, but
Did he raise his voice, make any physical moves?
No, he just talked. But the way he talked, Dad, it was like he was deciding whether to kill me or not.
Raymond closed his eyes. He'd heard stories. Years ago, when he'd been stationed at JSOC headquarters, he'd heard whispers about a unit that didn't officially exist. Phantom Cell. The operators who handled missions so black that even the Joint Chiefs didn't get full briefings. The men who went into places that weren't supposed to have American footprints and came back without leaving any evidence they'd been there at all. And he'd heard about one operator in particular, a man they called Ghost 6, the one who'd been sent to clean up the worst messes, the one who'd handled more unsanctioned eliminations than any other operator in Special Operations history. The description Derek had just given matched the rumors exactly.
Dad, talk to me. Who is this guy?
Someone I hoped we'd never meet.
What does that mean?
It means I need to find out if he's really who I think he is. And if he is, God help us all. Marcus spent the morning doing what he always did. He mopped floors. He emptied trash cans. He nodded politely to soldiers who walked past without seeing him. He fixed a clogged sink in the women's restroom and replaced 3 light bulbs in the administrative wing. Normal work. Invisible work. But his mind was elsewhere. He shouldn't have said those things to Captain Stone. Shouldn't have revealed that he knew classified information. Shouldn't have let the ghost out, even for a moment. 3 years of careful anonymity, and he'd blown it over spilled coffee. Sarah would have laughed at him. She always said his temper was his biggest weakness. Not the explosive kind that got men in trouble, but the cold kind that made him say exactly the right words to destroy someone's confidence. You don't punch people, Marcus. You dissect them. It's worse. She'd been right. It was worse. Because now Captain Stone was going to tell his father. And General Stone was going to start digging. And eventually, someone was going to connect the dots between a maintenance worker named Marcus Cole and a ghost named Silas Thornton, the alias he'd used during his years with Phantom Cell. He'd been careful. New name, new social security number, new life history carefully constructed by people who owed him favors. But no cover was perfect. Someone always found a thread eventually. And Derek Stone had just started pulling. The knock on the maintenance closet door came at 11:47 a.m. Marcus was organizing cleaning supplies when he heard it. 3 sharp raps, military precision. Come in. The door opened and a woman stepped through. Late 40s, silver oak leaves on her collar, posture so straight it looked painful. Her nameplate read Hayes. Colonel Jennifer Hayes, base commander. Marcus set down the bottle of floor cleaner and straightened up. Ma'am, something I can help you with? Hayes studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved across his face, his hands, his stance. The quick assessment of someone who'd spent decades evaluating people. Close the door, she said quietly. Marcus complied. You had an encounter with Captain Stone this morning. I did. He claims you threatened him. Said you knew classified information that you shouldn't have access to. Is that what he claims? That's what he told his father, who called my office 20 minutes ago demanding to know who you are and how you got clearance to work on this base. Marcus said nothing. Hayes took a step closer. I ran your background check myself when you applied 3 years ago. Marcus Cole. Honorable discharge from the Army in 2019. Administrative specialist. 4 years of service. No combat deployments. Clean record. That's correct. Except it's not correct, is it? Marcus met her eyes. Ma'am? I've seen men like you before, Mr. Cole. The way you carry yourself. The way you positioned yourself in that cafeteria. Back to the wall, clear sight line to the exit. The way you handled Stone without ever raising your voice or making a threatening move. I was just trying to eat breakfast with my daughter. And I'm just trying to understand why a maintenance worker has General Stone calling my office at 6 in the morning, using language I haven't heard since my deployment to Iraq. What kind of language? The kind that suggests he knows exactly who you are, and he's terrified. Marcus let out a slow breath. Colonel, I don't want any trouble. I just want to do my job and raise my daughter. Then you shouldn't have mentioned that file number. His eyes sharpened. You know about 7749-Alpha? I know it exists. I don't know what's in it. But I know that General Stone has spent 15 years making sure nobody ever opens it. Maybe someone should. Maybe, but that's above my pay grade. Hayes crossed her arms. Here's what I do know. In about 2 hours, there's going to be a team of investigators arriving on this base. They're going to want to talk to you, ask questions, dig into your background. Investigators from where? Officially, Army CID. Unofficially, I have no idea. But Stone pulled strings I didn't know he had. Marcus nodded slowly. And you're warning me because... Hayes was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Because I served with Colonel Patterson in Afghanistan. He used to tell stories about a unit that didn't exist, about men who did impossible things, about one operator in particular who saved his life during an ambush in Kandahar. I didn't know anyone named Patterson. He described the man who saved him, said he had a scar running from his ear to his jaw, said he moved like nothing he'd ever seen, said the enemy combatants were dead before they even knew he was there. Sounds like a tall tale. Patterson wasn't the type for tall tales. He was the most honest man I ever served with. Hayes moved toward the door. I'm not going to ask who you really are, Mr. Cole. That's your business. But I am going to tell you that Stone is dangerous. He's got connections, money, and no conscience. If he thinks you're a threat to him or his son, what? He'll do whatever it takes to neutralize that threat, legal or otherwise. Marcus absorbed this information. Why are you telling me this? Because Patterson saved my life too. Carried me 3 miles to an extraction point after an IED took out our convoy. And before he died, he made me promise that if I ever met one of those men, those ghosts from the stories, I'd do right by them. She opened the door. You've got 2 hours, Mr. Cole. Whatever you need to do, I suggest you do it quickly. Then she was gone. Marcus stood alone in the maintenance closet for a long moment. 2 hours. CID investigators. General Stone pulling strings. The ghost was waking up whether he wanted it to or not. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in 3 years. It rang twice before a voice answered. This number has been disconnected. Omega 77 Echo. A pause, then a click. Jesus Christ, a familiar voice said. Ghost 6. I thought you were dead. I was, but someone's trying to make it permanent. Who? General Raymond Stone, 2-star, currently assigned to... I know who Stone is. Half the intelligence community knows who Stone is. The question is, why he's coming after you? His son poked the wrong bear. Ah, let me guess. You said something you shouldn't have. I mentioned 7749-Alpha. A long whistle came through the phone. You always did have a way with words. What do you need? Information. Everything you have on Stone's current activities, his connections, his vulnerabilities. That's a tall order. Stone's got friends in high places. So do I. Had, past tense. You've been out of the game for 3 years. Some games you never really leave. Another pause. I can get you what you need, but it's going to take time. 12 hours minimum. I've got 2. Then I suggest you find a way to buy more. The line went dead. Marcus checked his watch. 12:15 p.m. He needed to pick Lily up from school at 3:15. That gave him 3 hours to figure out a way to delay whatever Stone was planning. His mind ran through options. Disappear with Lily? Too conspicuous, and it would mean abandoning the life he'd built. Confront Stone directly? Too risky. Would confirm whatever suspicions the general already had. Wait and see? Too passive. Would let Stone control the situation. There was a fourth option. One he'd hoped he'd never have to use. The favor. 3 years ago, when Marcus had needed to disappear, he'd called in every marker he had. New identity, clean records, a backstory that would hold up under normal scrutiny. But one person had gone further than the others. One person had provided something extra. Insurance in case his new life ever fell apart. A file. Hidden in a secure location known only to Marcus. A file containing evidence of crimes that General Stone would kill to keep buried. The problem was that using it would mean becoming Ghost 6 again. Not just in capability, but in mindset. It would mean acknowledging that the peaceful life he'd built was an illusion. That some fights couldn't be walked away from, no matter how hard you tried. It would mean showing Lily the father she'd never met. The one who solved problems by making people disappear. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. They're already here. 2 SUVs just pulled through the main gate. Black, government plates. You've got 45 minutes, maybe less. Marcus deleted the message and started walking. He found Captain Stone in the officers' mess, eating lunch with Briggs and Harmon. The 3 men looked up as Marcus approached. Stone's face went pale, then flushed with anger. "What the hell are you doing here? I told security to keep you." "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen." Marcus pulled out a chair and sat down, uninvited. Briggs and Harmon tensed, but made no move to stop him. "Your father made a mistake. He thinks bringing investigators will solve his problem. It won't. You don't know anything about my father. I know he's scared. I could hear it in your voice this morning when you talked about him. That wasn't confidence. That was a son repeating what he'd been told." Stone's jaw tightened. "Get out." 7749 Alpha, Marcus said quietly. "You remember that number?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "You should. It's the file that could end your father's career. End your career. End everything the Stone family has built over the past 20 years. There is no file. There's always a file. And somewhere in your family's history, someone decided to write things down. Names, dates, amounts, the kind of details that make prosecutors very happy." Stone leaned forward, his voice a harsh whisper. "If you're threatening my father, I'm offering him a deal." "What kind of deal?" "Call off the investigation. Tell the CID team it was a misunderstanding. Let me go back to mopping floors and raising my daughter." "Why would he do that?" "Because the alternative is worse." Stone stared at him. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He slid it across the table. "That's a summary. Just the highlights. Enough to show I'm serious." Stone unfolded the paper. His face went white as he read. This can't be real." "It's very real. And there's more. Much more." "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter?" "It matters because this information was supposed to be destroyed 15 years ago." "Supposed to be. Wasn't." Stone looked up, his eyes wide with something that might have been fear.
"Who the hell are you?"
Marcus leaned back in his chair. "I'm the man who cleaned up your father's messes for 10 years. The man he sent into the places that didn't exist, to do the things that never happened. The man who knows where every buddy is buried, because I put most of them there."
"That's not possible."
"Call your father. Ask him about Operation Nightfall. Ask him about the village in Helmand Province. Ask him what really happened to the intelligence assets who were going to testify above a convoy ambush." Stone's hand was shaking as he reached for his phone. "I wouldn't do that here," Marcus said. "Too many ears."
"Then where?"
"Somewhere private. You have 15 minutes to make a decision, Captain.
Call your father and tell him to back off. Or don't, and watch everything he's built come crashing down."
Marcus stood. "I'll be in the maintenance building. You know where to find me." He walked away, leaving Stone staring at the paper in his hands.
The 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. Marcus waited in the maintenance closet, organizing supplies he'd already organized, listening for footsteps in the hallway. His phone buzzed once, a message from Lily's school confirming she'd eaten lunch. Normal, routine, the life he was trying to protect. At the 14-minute mark, he heard them coming. Not Stone, multiple footsteps, heavy, moving with purpose. The door burst open, and 3 men in civilian clothes entered. Behind them stood General Raymond Stone himself, older than his photographs, but with the same cold eyes Marcus had seen in briefing documents 20 years ago. "Marcus Cole," the general said. "Or should I call you Ghost 6? Marcus stayed still. "I prefer Marcus these days." "I'm sure you do." The general stepped forward, the 3 men flanking him like Secret Service. "I got the message, the summary. Very impressive." "Impressive enough to call off your dogs?" "Impressive enough to come here myself." That wasn't the answer Marcus had hoped for. "General, I meant what I said. All I want is to be left alone. Walk away, and this ends."
"See, that's the problem." Stone pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. "I can't walk away. I've spent 15 years building something, a legacy, a future for my son. And I can't let some burned-out ghost threaten all of that because my boy was stupid enough to pick a fight in a cafeteria." "Then control your boy." "I intend to. But first, I need to control you."
"Good luck with that."
Stone smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "You think you're still dangerous, don't you? Still the legendary operator who could walk through walls and kill without leaving a trace. But you've been out of the game for 3 years. You're soft, slow. You're a janitor now."
"And yet you brought 3 men with you."
"Insurance."
"Or fear."
The smile faded.
"I'm not afraid of you." "Then why is your hand shaking?" Stone looked down at his right hand, which was indeed trembling slightly against the table. He pulled it back quickly.
"Listen carefully," he said, his voice harder now. "I know about the file. I know you have evidence that could hurt me. But I also know something about you. Something you've tried very hard to hide." Marcus said nothing. "Your daughter's school records list you as her only guardian. No other family. No emergency contacts besides you. If something were to happen, if you were to suddenly become unable to care for her," the air in the room changed. "Choose your next words very carefully," Marcus said quietly. "She'd go into the system, foster care, maybe eventually adopted by someone, maybe not. It's hard for older children, I understand. General, or..." Stone held up a hand. "Or we can come to an arrangement. You destroy that file, every copy, every backup, and you disappear for real this time. Leave the base.
Leave the state.
Start over somewhere far away. And Lily? Takes her with you, of course. I'm not a monster. Marcus studied the man across from him. The confident posture, the careful words, the underlying desperation hidden beneath layers of power and privilege. You're making a mistake, Marcus said. Am I? You're assuming I care more about my safety than my daughter's. You're assuming I'll run to protect myself. Won't you? No. Marcus stood slowly. The three men tensed, hands moving toward concealed weapons. Because running means living in fear. Running means showing Lily that powerful men can take whatever they want without consequences. Running means teaching her that courage is just a word people use to describe stupidity. So what? You'll fight? Against me? Against the entire weight of the military establishment? If I have to. You'll lose. Maybe. But you'll lose more. Stone's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? It's a fact. That file I gave your son? That was the summary, the highlights, the stuff I could print on a single sheet of paper. Marcus leaned forward. But there's more. Audio recordings, video, testimony from men who were there. Enough evidence to not just end your career, but to put you in prison for the rest of your life. You're lying. Am I? Then call my bluff. Send your investigators. Dig into my background. And when you're done, ask yourself this. Why would a man who could destroy you with a phone call choose to spend 3 years mopping floors instead? Stone said nothing. The answer is simple. I didn't want to use it. I wanted to be left alone. I wanted to raise my daughter in peace. Marcus straightened. But you couldn't let that happen. You had to poke the bear. You had to threaten an 8-year-old girl to prove how powerful you are. I never threatened her. You just implied she'd end up in foster care if something happened to me. What would you call that? A statement of fact. A mistake, the worst one you've ever made. Stone stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This conversation is over. No, it's just beginning. Marcus pulled out his phone. In exactly 1 hour, an encrypted file is going to be sent to every major news outlet in the country. CNN, Fox, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of them. You wouldn't. I would, unless you do exactly what I say. Which is? Call off the investigation. Publicly reprimand your son for harassment. And most importantly, stay far away from me and my daughter for the rest of your natural life. Stone's face was purple with rage. You think you can dictate terms to me? I think I just did. The general turned to his men. Arrest him. Nobody moved. I said arrest him. The lead agent shook his head slowly. Sir, we don't have jurisdiction here. And frankly, I've heard stories about Ghost 6. I'm not sure we have enough men. He's a janitor. With respect, sir, he's a janitor who just talked you into a corner without raising his voice. I'm not eager to see what happens when he stops talking. Stone looked around the room wildly, searching for support and finding none. His son Derek had stayed behind, probably still staring at that summary, realizing how much his family had to lose. This isn't over, Stone said finally. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. Marcus checked his watch. You have 53 minutes to make a decision. I suggest you use them wisely. He walked past the general, past the agents, out of the maintenance closet and into the sunlight. Behind him, he could hear Stone shouting orders that nobody seemed inclined to follow. The ghost was awake now, and it wasn't going back to sleep. Marcus was halfway to Lily's school when his phone rang.
He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. But the area code was one he recognized. Virginia.
Langley. He answered on the third ring. "You've made some powerful enemies today," a woman's voice said. No greeting, no identification. "I've had powerful enemies before. Not like this. Stone is calling in every favor he has. Pentagon, intelligence community, even some people in the White House." "Who is this?" "Someone who owes you. Kandahar, 2015. You pulled my team out of a compound that was about to be overrun. Lost 2 of your own men doing it." Marcus searched his memory. Kandahar, 2015. A CIA black site that had been compromised by local insurgents. He'd led a 4-man team through 3 miles of hostile territory to extract 6 intelligence officers who would have been captured and tortured. 2 of his men hadn't made it back. "You were the station chief," he said slowly. "The one with the broken leg. You carried me on your back for the last mile. I never forgot." "What do you want?" "To help, if you'll let me." Marcus stopped walking. "Why?" "Because Stone isn't just coming after you. He's been dirty for years, running black market weapons through Afghanistan, taking bribes from contractors, covering up war crimes committed by units under his command." "I know." "What you don't know is that there's been an investigation. Quiet, off the books. We've been building a case against him for almost 2 years. And? And we're close. Very close. But we need one more piece of evidence. Something that ties him directly to the convoy ambush in 2005. Something that proves he knew about the intelligence warning and ignored it." "What makes you think I have that?" "Because you were the one sent to clean up the aftermath. You were the one who interrogated the survivors before they were silenced." Marcus closed his eyes. The memories came flooding back. Dark rooms, desperate men, questions asked with fists, and worse. The part of his service he'd tried hardest to forget. "I don't do that anymore." "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to remember, to testify, to help us put Stone where he belongs. And in exchange, full immunity, new identity, relocation package for you and your daughter. A fresh start somewhere Stone can never find you." It was a good offer. Better than anything Marcus had hoped for when he'd woken up that morning. But something didn't feel right. Why now? Why today? Because Stone is panicking. The moves he's making, calling in favors, sending investigators, it's drawing attention. The kind of attention that makes people nervous, people who've been protecting him. "You're saying his own allies are turning on him." "I'm saying his own allies are looking for a way out. And you just gave them one." Marcus looked at his watch. 2:47 p.m. He had 28 minutes to pick up Lily. "I need to think about it." "You have until midnight. After that, the offer expires." "Why midnight?"
"Because that's when Stone's people are planning to move against you. We intercepted communications. They're going to make it look like an accident." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "What kind of accident?" "The kind that involves your daughter's school." The world went silent. For a moment, Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stand there as the implications crashed over him like a wave. They were going to use Lily. They were going to threaten an 8-year-old girl to get to him. "You still there?" the woman asked. "Yeah." His voice sounded strange in his own ears. Flat. Empty. "I'm here." "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but you needed to know." "Where's the threat coming from?" "We don't know exactly. Stone is using intermediaries, cutouts, people who can't be traced back to him." "Can you stop it?" "Not in time. We don't have the resources or the jurisdiction.
Then what good are you? I can give you information. I can give you support after the fact. But right now, in this moment, you're on your own. Marcus started walking again, faster this time. Send me everything you have, names, locations, anything that might help me find these people before they find my daughter. I'll do what I can. Do better. He hung up and broke into a run. The school was 3 blocks away when Marcus saw the van. Black, windowless, parked across the street from the main entrance. Engine running. He slowed to a walk, his eyes scanning the area. 2 men in civilian clothes stood near the playground fence, pretending to check their phones. A third sat behind the wheel of the van, face hidden behind tinted glass. Professionals. Not military. Their posture was wrong for that. Private contractors, probably. The kind of men who did dirty work for people who didn't want to get their hands dirty. Marcus checked his watch. 3:11 p.m. 4 minutes until the final bell. 4 minutes to neutralize 3 threats without alerting the school, the police, or any witnesses. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Dialed Lily's teacher. "Mrs. Patterson? This is Marcus Cole, Lily's father." "Oh, Mr. Cole, we were just about to—" "I need you to keep Lily inside for a few minutes. Don't let her leave the classroom." "Is everything all right?" "There's been a family emergency. I'm on my way. But I need to make sure she stays safe until I get there." "Of course. I'll keep her with me." "Thank you. And Mrs. Patterson? If anyone asks for her, anyone at all, don't let them near her, even if they say they're with me." A pause. "Mr. Cole, you're scaring me." "Good. That means you'll be careful." He hung up and turned his attention to the van. The 2 men near the fence had noticed him now. One spoke into a radio. The other started moving toward him with the casual stride of someone trying not to look threatening. Marcus kept walking. Steady. Unhurried. "Mr. Cole?" The man smiled as he approached. "I'm with base security. General Stone asked us to provide an escort for you and your daughter." "Is that right?" "Yes, sir. He's concerned about your safety after this morning's incident." How thoughtful of him. "If you'll just come with us—" "I don't think so." The smile faltered. "Sir?" I said no. Marcus stopped walking. "And you can tell Stone that if he wants to threaten my daughter, he should come do it himself instead of sending hired help." The man's expression hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You're here to grab Lily when she comes out of school. Use her as leverage to make me cooperate. Or maybe just make us both disappear. Which is it?" "Sir, I really think you should—" "Here's what's going to happen." Marcus lowered his voice. "You're going to get back in your van. You're going to drive away. And you're going to tell whoever hired you that Marcus Cole said no. And if we don't, then we're going to have a problem." The second man had arrived now, flanking Marcus on his left. The driver remained in the van, ready to move at a moment's notice. 2 against 1, the first man said. "I like those odds." "You shouldn't." "Big talk from a janitor." "I'm not a janitor. That's just what I do." Marcus shifted his weight slightly, centering his balance. "What I am is someone who's spent 20 years learning how to kill people in ways you can't imagine. And right now, you're standing between me and my daughter. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds to make a decision. Same 5 seconds I gave Captain Stone this morning. And just like this morning, I'm hoping you'll make the smart choice." The 2 men exchanged glances. 5. "This is ridiculous." 4. "We have our orders." 3. "You can't take both of us." 2. "This is your last warning." 1. The first man moved. His hand went toward his jacket, toward the weapon Marcus had spotted the moment he'd seen them. He never got there. Marcus caught the man's wrist before his fingers touched the gun. Twisted. The snap of bone was audible even over the traffic noise. The man screamed and went down, his weapon clattering to the sidewalk. The second man was faster. He had his gun out and aimed before Marcus finished the first takedown. But Marcus was already moving. He stepped inside the man's guard, one hand catching his gun arm, the other striking the nerve cluster in his neck. The man's body went rigid, then limp. The gun fell. Marcus caught it before it hit the ground. 3 seconds. 2 down. The van's engine roared to life. The driver had seen enough. He was cutting his losses. Marcus raised the captured weapon and fired once. The front tire exploded. The van swerved, jumped the curb, and slammed into a fire hydrant. Water erupted into the air as the driver stumbled out, dazed and bleeding from a cut on his forehead. "Stay down," Marcus said, his voice cold. The driver stayed down. From somewhere behind him, Marcus heard children's voices. The final bell had rung. School was letting out. He tucked the weapon into his waistband, covered it with his jacket, and walked toward the entrance. Behind him, the 2 men were groaning on the sidewalk, too injured to follow. The van hissed and steamed against the hydrant, drawing the attention of passers-by who were already pulling out phones to call for help. He'd have maybe 5 minutes before the police arrived. Plenty of time. Lily was waiting in the classroom with Mrs. Patterson when Marcus walked in. "Daddy!" She ran to him and threw her arms around his waist. "Mrs. Patterson said there was an emergency. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." He hugged her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling her small heart beating against his chest. "We just need to leave a little early today." "Is something wrong?" "Nothing I can't handle." Mrs. Patterson watched them with worried eyes. "Mr. Cole, I heard something outside. It sounded like—" "A car accident. Someone hit a hydrant. The police will be here soon." "Should we—" "You should stay here. Keep the other children inside until things settle down." "What about you?" "We'll be fine." Marcus took Lily's hand. "Thank you for keeping her safe." "Of course, but Mr. Cole—" "Yes?" "Whatever's happening, please be careful." Marcus nodded. "Always." They left through the side entrance, avoiding the growing crowd near the crashed van. Lily clutched his hand tightly, her eyes wide with questions she hadn't asked yet. "Where are we going?" she said finally. "Somewhere safe." "Is it because of the man from this morning? The angry one?" Marcus squeezed her hand. "Yes. He has friends who want to hurt us." "Why?" "Because I know something they don't want anyone else to know." "What do you know?" "That they did bad things, and they're scared I'll tell people." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Are you going to tell people?" "Maybe, if it's the only way to keep us safe." "Will it help?" "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so." They walked for 2 blocks before Marcus spotted the car he'd arranged, a nondescript sedan parked in the lot of a grocery store. Inside was a go-bag he'd packed 3 years ago and never needed. Cash, clothes, new documents, everything required to disappear. He'd hoped he'd never have to use it. "Lily, I need you to listen to me very carefully." "Okay." "We're going to take a trip. A long trip. We might be gone for a while." "What about school?" "School can wait." "What about my friends?" "You'll make new friends." "What about home?" Marcus knelt down until he was at her level. "Home isn't a place. Home is wherever we're together. Do you understand?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I'm scared, Daddy." "I know. I'm scared too." "You don't get scared." "Everyone gets scared. The trick is not letting it stop you from doing what you need to do." "What do we need to do?" "Right now, we need to get in that car and drive very far away. Can you do that for me?" Lily nodded slowly. "Will we come back?" "Someday. when it's safe.
Promise?
Marcus pulled her into a hug. I promise, no matter what happens, we'll find our way back. Together. They were 30 miles outside of Fayetteville when Marcus's phone rang again. Same unknown number. Same Virginia area code. You move fast, the woman's voice said. Stone's people are already looking for you. Let them look. They're mobilizing everything they have. Police, federal agencies. He's claiming you're a domestic terrorist. Of course he is. The story won't hold for long. Too many holes. But it'll be enough to make things difficult for you in the short term. I'm used to difficult.
Where are you headed?
Somewhere they won't find us.
Marcus, listen to me. I know you think you can handle this alone, but Stone has resources you can't imagine. You need help.
Your kind of help comes with strings attached.
Everything comes with strings attached. The question is whether you can live with them.
Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted by the day's events. Her face was peaceful in sleep, unmarked by the fear and confusion that had dominated her waking hours. She deserved better than this. She deserved a normal life, with normal problems, in a normal world. But Marcus had stopped believing in normal a long time ago. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. "I told you. Testimony. Evidence. Something that ties Stone directly to the convoy ambush." "And if I give you that?" "We take him down. Not just his career. His freedom. He spends the rest of his life in a military prison, and everyone who helped him goes down too." "Including his son?" A pause. "Derek Stone isn't a priority. But if there's evidence of his involvement..." "There is. I showed him part of it this morning." "What did he do?" "He called his daddy." "That's obstruction at minimum. Maybe accessory after the fact." "He's a kid playing soldier. He doesn't know what his father really is." "Does that matter to you?" Marcus thought about it. This morning, Derek Stone had been nothing but a bully. A privileged child of power, using his father's name to intimidate people he considered beneath him. He'd spilled coffee on Lily's dress. He'd insulted Sarah's memory. But he hadn't sent men with guns to grab an 8-year-old girl from school. That was his father's doing. "Let him go," Marcus said. "Focus on the general." "That's not my decision." "Make it your decision." "Why do you care?" "Because he's still young. Because people can change. Because I don't want to be responsible for destroying a man who might still have a chance to become something better." The woman was quiet for a moment. "You're a strange man, Marcus Cole." "I've been called worse." "I'll see what I can do, but I need something in return." "Name it." "The file. The full file. Everything you have on Stone." "I don't have it with me." "Where is it?" "Hidden. Somewhere safe." "We need it." "You'll get it. When I'm ready."
When will that be?
Marcus looked in the mirror again. Lily was still sleeping, her small chest rising and falling with each breath. "When my daughter is safe. When I know Stone can't touch her. Then you'll have everything you need."
"And if something happens to you before then?"
"Then you'll never find it."
That's not very reassuring.
"It's not meant to be. It's meant to ensure you keep us alive." Another pause. Longer this time.
"You're good at this,"
the woman said finally. "I've had practice."
"The safe house in Raleigh is still active. Do you remember the address?"
"I remember."
"Go there. We'll have a team waiting. Protection, supplies, whatever you need."
"And Stone?"
"We'll handle Stone. Just get to Raleigh and stay put."
Marcus ended the call and focused on the road ahead.
Raleigh was 2 hours away. 2 hours of darkness, of uncertainty, of watching mirrors and checking corners.
2 hours of keeping his daughter safe while powerful men tried to find them.
He'd done worse, but never with so much at stake.
They stopped once for gas at a station in the middle of nowhere. Lily woke up while Marcus was filling the tank. She looked around, confused, her eyes adjusting to the flickering fluorescent lights.
Where are we?
About halfway there.
Halfway where?
To the safe place.
Is it nice?
I don't know. I've never been.
Then how do you know it's safe?
Because the people who told me about it want to help us.
Are they your friends?
Marcus considered the question. The woman on the phone wasn't his friend. She was an intelligence officer with her own agenda, using him to advance her own goals. But their interests aligned, at least for now. They're people who want the same thing we want, he said finally. For the bad man to be stopped.
Will they stop him?
They're going to try.
What if they can't?
Then I will. Lily was quiet for a moment.
How?
However I have to.
Does that scare you? Doing whatever you have to?
Marcus finished pumping and replaced the nozzle. He got back in the car and looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror. No, he said honestly. What scares me is the idea of not doing enough, of holding back when I should have pushed forward, of losing you because I was too afraid to become who I used to be.
Who did you used to be?
Someone dangerous. Someone who did bad things for good reasons. Someone I tried very hard to leave behind.
But he's still there? Inside you?
Yes.
And you're going to let him out?
Marcus started the engine. If I have to, yes. Lily reached forward and touched his shoulder. Her small hand was warm against his jacket.
It's okay, Daddy. I'm not scared of you.
You should be.
But I'm not, because you're my daddy, and daddies protect their kids, whatever it takes.
Marcus felt something break inside him, something hard and cold that he'd been carrying for years.
"When did you get so smart?" he asked, his voice rough. "Mom taught me."
She taught you well.
She said you were the strongest person she ever knew, not because you could hurt people, but because you chose not to. Because you had all this power, and you used it to help instead of hurt.
She said that?
All the time. She said that's why she fell in love with you.
Marcus couldn't speak. He just drove, the night rushing past, his daughter's words echoing in his mind. Sarah had always seen the best in him, even when he couldn't see it himself. Maybe it was time to prove her right. They reached Raleigh at 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the deadline. The safe house was a small brick building in a quiet neighborhood, indistinguishable from the homes around it. A light burned in the front window, the signal that it was safe to approach. Marcus parked on the street and studied the house for a long moment. No movement. No suspicious vehicles. No signs of ambush. "Lily, I need you to wait here."
No! Sweetheart, no! I'm not staying in the car alone. Not after everything that happened today.
She was right. He couldn't leave her unprotected, not even for a minute. "Okay, stay close to me. Don't make any noise. If I tell you to run, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. Just run."
Where?
"Anywhere away from me. Find a police officer. Tell them your name. They'll help you."
What about you?
"Don't worry about me. Just get yourself safe." Lily took his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong.
I'm not leaving you, Daddy.
"Whatever happens, we stay together." Marcus looked at his daughter, this small, brave, impossible girl who had been through more in one day than most children experienced in a lifetime. Together, he agreed. No matter what. They got out of the car and walked toward the house. The door opened before they reached the porch. A woman stood in the doorway, late 40s, gray streaked through dark hair, eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. "Ghost 6, she said. "Welcome to Raleigh. You're the one from the phone. Director Sarah Mitchell, CIA, and you must be Lily." Lily looked up at her. "Are you going to help my daddy?" Mitchell smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "I'm going to try, sweetheart. I'm going to try very hard." She stepped aside and let them in. The door closed behind them with a solid click. Outside, the night was quiet. But somewhere in the darkness, General Stone was making his next move, and the final confrontation was about to begin. The safe house smelled like coffee and tension. Mitchell led them through a narrow hallway into a back room where 3 men sat around a table covered with laptops, phones, and documents. They looked up as Marcus entered, their eyes measuring him with a practiced assessment of professionals. "This is the team," Mitchell said. "Agent Torres handles communications. Agent Webb is our tactical specialist. And Agent Reeves runs tech." Marcus nodded at each of them, but didn't speak. His attention was focused on Lily, who had tightened her grip on his hand the moment they'd entered the room. "Is there somewhere my daughter can rest?" "Upstairs, second door on the left. There's a bed and a bathroom." "Someone to watch her?" Mitchell hesitated. "We're stretched thin. Stone is moving faster than we anticipated." "Then I'll stay with her." "Marcus, we need to debrief. Every hour we delay gives Stone more time to—" "My daughter comes first. Always." The room went quiet. The 3 agents exchanged glances, but said nothing. Mitchell studied Marcus for a long moment, then nodded. "Fine. Take her upstairs, get her settled. But then we talk." Marcus didn't argue. He led Lily up the stairs, checking corners out of habit, noting exits and potential defensive positions without consciously thinking about it. The second door on the left opened into a small bedroom with a single bed and a window overlooking the street below. "Is this where we're staying?" Lily asked. "For now." "It's not very pretty." "No, but it's safe." Lily sat on the bed and pulled her backpack into her lap. She'd been clutching it since they'd left the school, the one piece of normal she'd been able to bring with her. "Daddy, are you going to leave me here?" "Just for a little while. I need to talk to those people downstairs." "About the bad man?" "Yes." "Will you come back?" Marcus knelt in front of her. "Lily, look at me." She raised her eyes. They were red from exhaustion, but the fear in them was worse. "I will always come back to you, no matter what happens, no matter how long it takes. Do you understand?" "Mom said that too, before she went away." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd told Lily that Sarah had died from cancer, a lie meant to protect her from the truth. But Lily was smart. She remembered things, and she'd never fully believed the story. "Your mom didn't want to leave you," Marcus said carefully. "She was taken from us, by people who wanted to hurt our family." "Like the bad man?" "Like the bad man." "Did you find them? The people who took her?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Some of them." "What happened to them?" "They can't hurt anyone anymore." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this in her 8-year-old way. "Are you going to do the same thing to the bad man?" "If I have to." "Will that make you sad?" The question surprised him. He'd expected fear or judgment, not concern for his emotional state. "Yes," he admitted. "It will make me very sad." "Then why do it?" Because sometimes we have to do sad things to protect the people we love. Lily reached out and touched his face. Her small fingers traced the scar from his ear to his jaw, the mark he'd carried for 15 years. Mom said this scar was from protecting her, from a mission that went wrong. Marcus closed his eyes. Sarah must have told her more than he'd realized. She was right. She said you almost died, that you were in the hospital for 3 months, that the doctors didn't think you'd wake up. I woke up. Because of her. She said you heard her voice and you followed it back. Marcus felt tears building behind his eyes. He hadn't cried since Sarah's funeral, hadn't allowed himself that weakness. She saved me, he whispered. In every way a person can be saved. And now you're saving me. I'm trying. Lily leaned forward and kissed his forehead. A gentle kiss, like the one Sarah used to give him before he left for missions. You're a good daddy. Whatever you have to do tonight, I'll still love you tomorrow. Marcus pulled her into a hug and held her until the tears stopped threatening to fall. Get some sleep, he said finally. I'll be right downstairs. Promise? Promise. When Marcus returned to the back room, Mitchell was waiting with a tablet in her hands. She okay? She's scared, but she's strong. She gets that from you. She gets that from her mother. Mitchell nodded and handed him the tablet. This is what we have on Stone. Communications intercepts, financial records, witness statements. 2 years of work, all pointing to one conclusion. Marcus scrolled through the files. Names he recognized, operations he remembered. A web of corruption that stretched from Afghanistan to Washington and back again. This is solid, he said. It's almost solid. We're missing the final piece. Direct evidence linking Stone to the convoy ambush. The decision that got 12 men killed. I have it. Where? Hidden, like I told you. Marcus, we don't have time for games. Stone knows you're alive. He knows you have evidence against him. And right now, he's mobilizing every resource he has to find you. Let him mobilize. You don't understand. He's calling in markers from people who make me look like a parking enforcement officer. Pentagon, NSA, even some foreign assets. I know how Stone operates. Then you know he won't stop. He can't stop. If you expose him, everything he's built collapses. His career, his legacy, his family. He's a cornered animal, and cornered animals are the most dangerous kind. Marcus set the tablet down. What do you want from me? The file. The full file. Everything you have. And then what? Then we take it to the Attorney General, launch a formal investigation, have Stone arrested by morning. It won't be that simple. Why not? Because Stone has friends in the Justice Department, friends in the intelligence community, friends in places you don't even know about. Then what do you suggest? Marcus leaned forward. I suggest we stop playing their game and start playing mine. The plan was simple, dangerous, but simple. Stone was expecting Marcus to run, to hide, to wait for the investigation to play out through official channels that could take months or years. Instead, Marcus was going to force a confrontation, draw Stone out into the open, make him commit to an action that couldn't be covered up. You want to use yourself as bait, Mitchell said flatly. I want to end this, tonight. And if it doesn't work, then you have enough evidence to take Stone down anyway. My testimony would have been helpful, but it's not essential. Your daughter would disagree. Marcus's expression hardened. Leave her out of this. She's already in it. Stone targeted her first. He'll target her again if he gets the chance. That's why I need to finish this now, before he has time to regroup.
Mitchell turned to her team. Torres, what's Stone's current location? Still at Fort Braxton. He's been in meetings all day.
Pentagon brass, legal counsel, damage control. Security? Heavy. He's got a full detail plus whatever private contractors he's brought in. Extraction routes? Multiple. He could go ground, air, or rail within 30 minutes of any threat. Marcus absorbed the information. He won't run. Not yet. His pride won't let him. How can you be sure? Because I know men like Stone. They don't believe they can lose. Not really. They think their connections will protect them. Their money. Their power. What if he's right? Then I'm wrong, and none of this matters anyway. Mitchell studied him for a long moment. You really think you can get to him? I got to worse people in worse places. Stone is a politician playing soldier. He's never faced a real threat in his life. He has an army protecting him. An army of contractors who are paid to look intimidating, not to die. The moment things get real, they'll scatter, and if they don't, then they made a bad career choice. The phone call came at 2:17 a.m. Marcus had been studying maps of Fort Braxton, identifying weaknesses in the security perimeter, when his personal phone buzzed with an incoming call. Unknown number. But the area code was different this time. North Carolina. He answered on the first ring. Mr. Cole. The voice was calm, controlled, familiar. General Stone. I'm impressed. Most men in your position would have run by now. I'm not most men. No, you're not. Which is why I'm calling. To negotiate? To offer you an opportunity. One professional to another. Marcus leaned back in his chair. I'm listening. I know what you have. I know what you're planning to do with it. And I know that if you go through with this, a lot of people are going to get hurt. People have already been hurt. 12 men in 2005. My wife 3 years ago. My daughter this afternoon. I had nothing to do with your wife. You had everything to do with my wife. The intelligence leak that compromised our mission came from your office. The same office that buried the convoy investigation. The same office that's been running dirty operations for 15 years. Silence on the line. You can't prove that, Stone said finally. Yes, I can, and we both know it. Then why haven't you? Because I wanted to be left alone. Because I thought if I disappeared quietly, you'd forget about me. But you couldn't do that, could you? You had to send your boy to poke the bear. Derek made a mistake. Derek made several mistakes. The worst one was threatening my daughter. That wasn't... Don't. Marcus's voice went cold. Don't lie to me. Not now. Not after everything you've done. What do you want, Cole? I want what I've always wanted. To raise my daughter in peace. To live my life without looking over my shoulder. To forget that men like you exist. And in exchange? I don't think you understand. I'm not negotiating. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, everything I have on you goes public. Every file, every recording, every piece of evidence I've collected over the past 15 years. You'll destroy yourself in the process. Maybe, but I'll destroy you first. This doesn't have to end this way. You made sure it did the moment you targeted my daughter. Cole, we're done talking. Enjoy your last night of freedom. Marcus hung up before Stone could respond. You just declared war on a 2-star general, Mitchell said. He declared war on me first. I'm just accepting. He'll come for you now. No more proxies. No more contractors. He'll come himself. That's what I'm counting on. You have a death wish? I have a daughter, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep her safe. Mitchell shook her head. I've been in intelligence for 23 years. I've seen brave men, and I've seen crazy men. You're both. I've been called worse. What happens when Stone gets here? What's your actual plan? I make him confess. And if he doesn't? He will. How can you be sure? Because men like Stone think they're the smartest person in every room. They can't resist explaining themselves, justifying their actions, proving how right they were. That's a thin psychological profile to bet your life on. It's not thin. It's human nature. I've seen it 100 times in interrogation rooms. The guilty always want to talk.
They want you to understand. They want validation. And you're going to give him that opportunity. I'm going to give him rope. What he does with it is his choice. They came at 4:47 a.m. Not through the front door, not with sirens and warrants and official protocols. They came through the back fence, through the shadows, through the places that security cameras didn't quite cover. Torres spotted them first. Movement, east perimeter, 6 contacts. Armed? Can't tell, they're staying low. Marcus was already moving. Wake Lily, get her to the basement. What about you? I'll handle this. Mitchell grabbed his arm. Marcus, you can't. I've handled worse. Just keep my daughter safe. He pulled free and headed for the back door. The first man came through the fence, expecting resistance. He didn't expect the resistance to be waiting in the darkness, silent and invisible, until a hand closed around his throat and his world went black. The second man saw his partner go down and reached for his radio. He was unconscious before his fingers touched the button. The third and fourth came together, covering each other's blind spots, moving with professional precision. But they were professionals who'd trained in controlled environments, against predictable opponents, following standard protocols. Marcus was none of those things. He took them both in 4 seconds. No sound, no wasted movement, just the precise application of violence, honed through decades of practice, in places that didn't exist on any map. 2 more left. He found them at the back fence, trying to cut through the chain link with bolt cutters. They heard him coming, heard the soft footfall in the grass, and spun with weapons raised.
Don't, Marcus said quietly. Who the hell are you?
Someone you don't want to fight. There's 2 of us. There were 6 of you. Now there's 2. Do the math. The men exchanged glances. One of them, the older one, the one with gray at his temples, made a decision. We're just hired muscle. Whatever's between you and Stone, it's not our fight. Then leave. What about our guys? They'll wake up with headaches. Nothing permanent. The older man lowered his weapon. You're him, aren't you? The ghost. I'm just a father trying to protect his daughter. Stone said you were dangerous. Stone said a lot of things, most of them lies. He's coming, you know, himself. Said he wanted to see this through, personally. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. When? Dawn? Maybe sooner. How many men? I don't know, 12, 15, plus his personal detail. Regular contractors or military? Mix of both. Some guys from our outfit, some active duty who owe him favors. Active duty soldiers following an illegal order. Stone has a way of making things seem legal, at least until it's too late to back out. Marcus processed this information. 15 men, maybe more. Active duty mixed with contractors. All converging on this location in less than 2 hours. Get your guys and go, he said. And if you're smart, you'll forget this ever happened. What about Stone? Stone is my problem. The older contractor studied him for a long moment. You're really going to take on a general? Alone? I'm not alone. I have something he doesn't.
What's that?
The truth.
Marcus found Mitchell in the basement with Lily. His daughter was awake, sitting on a cot with her backpack in her lap, her eyes wide in the dim light. When she saw him, she jumped up and ran to him.
Daddy, I heard noises.
Just some people who made a wrong turn. They're gone now.
Are more coming?
He couldn't lie to her. Not anymore. Yes, but I'm going to stop them.
How?
The same way I've always stopped bad people. By being smarter, faster, more determined. Lily looked at him with those green eyes, her mother's eyes, and nodded slowly.
You're going to fight.
If I have to.
Will you hurt them?
Only if they try to hurt you.
What about the bad man, the general?
Marcus knelt down so they were at eye level. The general made choices a long time ago. Bad choices that hurt a lot of people. And now he's trying to hurt us to keep those choices secret.
Can't you just show everyone what he did?
I'm going to, but first I have to make sure he can't stop me. How do you do that? By making him face what he's done. By making him admit it. By taking away all his hiding places. Lily was quiet for a moment. Mom used to say that the truth is like sunlight. It makes bad things shrivel up and die. Marcus smiled, despite everything. Your mom was very wise. She said you taught her that. Did she? She said before she met you, she thought the world was mostly dark. But you showed her that there was light everywhere, if you knew where to look. Marcus felt tears threatening again. He blinked them back. Lily, I need you to do something for me.
Okay.
I need you to stay here with Director Mitchell, no matter what happens upstairs, no matter what you hear. Can you do that?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to have a conversation with the bad man.
Just a conversation?
Maybe more, but I'm going to try talking first. And if talking doesn't work, then I'll do what I have to. Lily reached out and took his hands in hers. Her small fingers wrapped around his scarred knuckles, holding tight.
Daddy, promise me something.
Anything.
Promise me you'll come back. Not just that you'll try. Promise me you actually will.
Marcus looked at his daughter, this fierce, brave, impossible child who had lost her mother and nearly lost her father, and still have the strength to hope. I promise, he said. I'll come back to you.
Even if you get hurt?
Even then.
Even if the bad man tries to stop you?
Especially then. Lily pulled him close and hugged him with all her 8-year-old strength.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything. Dawn came at 6:23 a.m. Marcus stood at the front window, watching the street fill with vehicles. Black SUVs, military jeeps, a convoy of force converging on a small brick house in a quiet Raleigh neighborhood. He's here, Torres said from his position at the communications array. Stone's vehicle just turned onto the street. How many total?
17 men, plus Stone himself.
Weapons?
Standard small arms, a few assault rifles. They're not exactly hiding.
Good. The more witnesses, the better. Mitchell came up behind him. Marcus, this is insane. You can't take on 17 men. I don't have to take on 17 men. I just have to take on one. Stone isn't going to face you alone. Yes, he is. Because I'm going to give him something he can't resist. What? The chance to win. Marcus walked out the front door at 6:31 a.m. The convoy had stopped 50 yards from the house. Men were deploying from vehicles, taking positions, creating a perimeter. At the center of it all stood a command vehicle with tinted windows. Marcus walked toward it, alone, unarmed, his hands visible at his sides. A soldier stepped forward to intercept him. "Stop right there. I want to speak to the general." "The general doesn't want to speak to you." "Yes, he does. He just doesn't know it yet." The soldier raised his weapon. "I said stop." "Private, look at my hands. Look at my posture. Do I look like a threat to you?" The soldier hesitated. Behind him, the command vehicle's door opened. General Raymond Stone stepped out into the morning light. He'd aged in the hours since Marcus had last seen him. The stress of the night had carved new lines into his face, and his uniform, usually impeccable, was wrinkled from hours of crisis management. "Let him through," Stone said.
"Sir, I said let him through." The soldier stepped aside. Marcus continued walking until he stood 10 feet from the general, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes. "You came yourself," Marcus said. "I'm impressed. You gave me no choice." "There's always a choice. You just made bad ones." Stone gestured at the men surrounding them. "I'd say my choices were pretty good. 17 armed soldiers versus one washed-up ghost." "Is that what you think I am? Washed up? You mopped floors for 3 years. You let my son humiliate you in a cafeteria. You ran away from a fight." "I walked away from a fight. There's a difference." "Is there?" "I walked away because my daughter was watching. Because I didn't want her to see what I'm capable of. Because some things are more important than pride." "And now?" "Now she's not watching. And you made the mistake of threatening her." Stone smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "You still haven't told me what you want."
I want you to confess.
"To what?"
All of it.
The convoy ambush, the cover-up, the intelligence leak that killed my wife, everything.
Why would I do that?
Because if you don't, I'll release the file anyway, and you'll spend the rest of your life in prison wondering how it all went wrong. And if I confess, then at least you'll have told the truth. At least the families of those 12 men will have answers. At least my daughter will know why her mother died." Stone laughed. "That's your leverage? The promise of a clear conscience?" "No. My leverage is this." Marcus reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out a small device, a recorder. He held it up so Stone could see. "This conversation is being transmitted, live, to every news network in the country, to the Pentagon, to the White House. Everything you say from this moment forward is on the record." Stone's face went pale. "You're bluffing."
Am I?
Marcus nodded toward the roof of the safe house, where Torres had positioned a satellite uplink. "Check with your communications people. They'll confirm." Stone's head whipped toward one of his men. "Verify that, now!" The soldier spoke into his radio. A moment later, his face went white. "Sir, he's telling the truth. There's a live feed going out. Multiple networks are already picking it up." Stone turned back to Marcus. For the first time, there was real fear in his eyes. "This doesn't change anything. Everything I did was sanctioned, approved at the highest levels." "Then you have nothing to hide." "I have plenty to hide, but not for the reasons you think." "Then tell me. Tell everyone. Tell the world why 12 men had to die. Why my wife had to die. Why you sent men to threaten my daughter." Stone's jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. "You want the truth? Fine. The truth is that those 12 men were going to expose a weapons program that could have won us the war in Afghanistan. A program that certain people in Washington decided was too dangerous to acknowledge publicly." "What kind of program?" "The kind that doesn't exist.
The kind that never existed. The kind that requires certain sacrifices to protect. You're talking about black ops. I'm talking about survival. National survival. The things we do in the shadows so that everyone else can sleep safely in the light. Those men were your own soldiers. Those men were a liability. They knew too much. They were going to talk. So you killed them. I eliminated a threat. Just like you eliminated threats for 15 years. Don't pretend you're any different. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. I am different. I followed orders. You gave them. Orders that came from above me. From people whose names you'll never know. I don't care about names. I care about justice. Justice. Stone spat the word like a curse. There is no justice. There's only power. Who has it? Who doesn't? I have it. You don't. Look around you, General. You're surrounded by armed men, but they're hearing every word you say. They're watching you confess to murder on live television. How long do you think their loyalty will last? Stone's eyes flickered to his men. Some of them were looking away. Others were lowering their weapons. You think this matters? Stone said, his voice rising. You think broadcasting my words changes anything? The people who sanction those operations are still in power. They'll bury this just like they buried everything else. Maybe, but you won't be there to see it. What does that mean? It means you're done, General. Whether you go to prison or just fade away, your career is over. Your legacy is over. Everything you built dies today. Stone stared at him. The fear had been replaced by something else now. Something desperate. Something dangerous. If I'm going down, he said quietly, I'm taking you with me. He reached for the sidearm at his hip. Marcus moved. The gun cleared the holster in a fraction of a second. But Marcus was faster. He'd known this moment was coming from the instant Stone's eyes had shifted. The desperation. The calculation. The realization that everything was lost, and the only thing left was to take his enemy down with him. Marcus closed the distance before Stone's finger found the trigger. His left hand caught the general's wrist, twisting it at an angle that sent pain shooting up the older man's arm. His right hand struck the nerve cluster at Stone's elbow, causing his grip to spasm and release. The gun fell to the pavement with a metallic clatter. Stone screamed, a sound of fury and agony and disbelief. He swung with his free hand, a wild punch born of desperation rather than training. Marcus absorbed it on his shoulder and responded with a controlled strike to Stone's solar plexus. The general folded like a cheap tent, gasping for air, his knees hitting the asphalt hard. It's over, Marcus said quietly. Stone looked up at him, his face twisted with hatred. You think this changes anything? The people above me, they'll never let this stand. Maybe, but they'll have to do it without you. Around them, the soldiers stood frozen. They'd watched their commanding general draw a weapon on an unarmed man. They'd heard him confess to murder on live television. And now, they'd seen him taken down in 3 seconds by someone they'd been told was just a janitor. Nobody moved to help him. Sir, one of the soldiers, a young sergeant with combat patches on his shoulder, stepped forward. General Stone, I'm placing you under arrest pending investigation. You can't arrest me. I outrank you. Article 94, sir. Mutiny and sedition. Article 118. Murder. You confessed on camera. I have a duty to act. Stone struggled to his feet, still clutching his injured arm. This is treason. All of you. You're all traitors. No, sir. The sergeant's voice was steady. Treason is what you did. We're just following the oath we swore. 2 more soldiers moved forward, one on each side of Stone. They weren't rough, but they weren't gentle either. They secured his hands behind his back with zip ties and began leading him toward one of the vehicles. Stone twisted to look back at Marcus. "This isn't over, Cole. You hear me? This will never be over." "Yes, it is," Marcus replied. "You just don't know it yet." The next 3 hours were chaos. Military police arrived first, followed by FBI agents, then representatives from the Pentagon. News helicopters circled overhead, their cameras capturing every moment of the unfolding drama. Reporters shouted questions from behind hastily erected barriers, while government officials scrambled to contain a story that had already gone viral. Marcus stayed on the periphery, watching it all unfold. He'd given his statement to the MPS, handed over the evidence Mitchell's team had collected, and answered questions until his voice was hoarse. Now he just wanted to see his daughter. He found her in the basement of the safe house, still sitting on the cot where he'd left her. Mitchell sat beside her, talking quietly about something that made Lily smile. "Daddy!" She launched herself at him the moment he appeared in the doorway. He caught her and held her tight, feeling her small body trembling against his chest. "Is it over?" she whispered. "It's over. The bad man? He can't hurt us anymore." Lily pulled back to look at him. Her eyes searched his face, looking for injuries, looking for signs that he'd become the person she'd been afraid of. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." Did you have to hurt anyone?" "Just the bad man, and not very much." "Really?" "Really. I promised you I'd try talking first. And talking worked." Lily's face broke into a smile, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her since this nightmare began. "Mom would be proud of you." Marcus felt something break open in his chest. Not the cold thing he'd been carrying since Sarah's death, but something else, something warm. "You think so?" She always said the strongest thing a person can do is choose peace when fighting would be easier. When did she tell you that? Every night, before bed. She said it was the most important lesson you ever taught her. Marcus closed his eyes. He could almost hear Sarah's voice, whispering those words in the darkness of their bedroom, while he recovered from missions that had nearly killed him. "Your mom was the best part of me," he said. "Everything good I ever did, I did because of her." "That's not true." "It feels true." "Daddy, you're good because you're you. Mom just helped you see it." They left the safe house at noon. Mitchell walked them to the car, her face showing the exhaustion of a sleepless night. But there was satisfaction there, too. The quiet triumph of someone who'd accomplished something important. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Stone goes to trial. Military tribunal. The evidence you provided, plus his confession on live television, he'll never see the outside of a prison again." "What about the people above him? The ones who sanction the operations?" "That's going to take longer. Congressional hearings, special investigations. It'll be years before we know the full scope of what happened." "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, you're a free man. Full immunity, as promised. New identity waiting whenever you want it." Marcus looked at Lily, who was already in the back seat of the car, her backpack clutched in her lap. "I don't think I need a new identity." "You're sure? Stone has allies. People who might want revenge." "Let them come. I'm done running." Mitchell smiled. "Patterson was right about you." "What did he say?" "That you were the most stubborn man he'd ever served with. That once you decided to do something, nothing in the world could stop you." He exaggerated. "Did he?" Marcus extended his hand. Mitchell shook it firmly. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." "Thank you."
You gave us what we needed to bring down a corrupt general. That's not nothing. It's also not everything. There's still work to do. There's always work to do. But today, we rest. We celebrate the small victories. Is this a small victory? It's the beginning of a big one. They drove back to Fort Braxton that afternoon. Marcus wasn't sure why he wanted to return. Maybe it was to prove to himself that he could. Maybe it was to close a chapter that had been opened too long. Maybe it was simply because the apartment he'd called home for 3 years was there, and he didn't have anywhere else to go. The base was different now. Word had spread about what happened in Raleigh. The janitor who wasn't a janitor. The ghost who had taken down a general. The father who had protected his daughter against impossible odds. People looked at Marcus as he drove through the main gate. Not with suspicion or hostility, but with something else. Respect. Awe. A little bit of fear. He didn't want any of it. He just wanted to be invisible again. Colonel Hayes was waiting for him at his apartment. She stood at attention as he approached, her posture as rigid as the day they'd first met. "Mr. Cole." "Colonel, I heard what happened. Everyone heard what happened. I wanted to thank you, personally. What you did, it took courage. It took desperation. Courage had nothing to do with it." "I disagree. Courage is doing what's right, even when it terrifies you. And I don't think you're a man who does things without being afraid." Marcus looked at her. "You're right. I was terrified. Still am, a little bit." "Of what?" "Of what Lily saw. Of who I had to become to protect her. Of what happens next." "What does happen next?" "I don't know. That's the terrifying part." Hayes smiled slightly. "If it helps, you still have a job here, if you want it." "Mopping floors?" "Actually, I was thinking something more appropriate to your skills." "Such as?" "Training, hand-to-hand combat, tactical awareness."
The kind of skills that could save soldiers' lives. I'm not sure I want to train soldiers anymore. Then don't think of them as soldiers. Think of them as kids. Kids who are going to be sent to dangerous places, whether you train them or not. Kids who might live or die based on what someone teaches them before they go. Marcus considered this. He'd spent 20 years learning how to hurt people. The idea of using that knowledge to help them, instead, felt strange. But not bad. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." 3 months later. Marcus stood in the small gymnasium on the east side of Fort Braxton, watching a group of young soldiers practice the techniques he'd taught them. Basic strikes, defensive maneuvers, the fundamentals of staying alive when everything goes wrong. He didn't wear a uniform, didn't carry rank. He was just Mr. Cole to the soldiers who trained with him, a civilian instructor with a mysterious past and skills that made even the most hardened veterans pay attention. "Good," he said as a young private executed a perfect disarm. "Now do it again, faster this time." "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir. I work for a living." The private grinned and reset to try the technique again. In the 3 months since Stone's arrest, a lot had changed. The congressional investigations had begun, and more names were being added to the list of people who would face justice. The families of the 12 men killed in the convoy ambush had finally received answers, along with formal apologies from the Department of Defense. And Captain Derek Stone, the young officer who had started this whole chain of events by kicking a quiet father in a cafeteria, had been quietly transferred to a desk job in Alaska. His career was over, but he wouldn't face criminal charges. Marcus had made sure of that. Some people deserved second chances.
"Daddy!"
Lily burst through the gymnasium doors, her school uniform slightly disheveled from running across the base. "What did I tell you about running in here?" "That it's dangerous and I could slip and hurt myself. But I have news." "What news?" "I got an A on my history test, the one about the Civil War." Marcus scooped her up and spun her around. "That's amazing! I'm so proud of you." "Can we celebrate? Can we go to Murphy's for pancakes?" The mention of Murphy's brought back memories. The cafeteria where everything had started. The booth where he'd sat with Lily on that fateful morning 3 months ago. "Sure," he said. "Let's go get pancakes." Murphy's diner hadn't changed. The same checkered floor, the same vintage pendant lights, the same smell of coffee and bacon and comfort. But the way people looked at Marcus when he walked in, that had changed. Martha, the waitress who'd been working that morning, came over to their table immediately. "Mr. Cole, Lily, it's good to see you." "You too, Martha." "The usual?" "The usual." Martha smiled and hurried off to place their order. Marcus watched her go, then turned to find Lily studying him with those green eyes. "What?" "You're different now." "Different how?" "Before, you tried to hide, to be invisible. Now you just are." "Is that good or bad?" "Good, I think. You seem happier." "Do I?" "Yeah, like you're not carrying something heavy anymore." Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm still carrying it. I'll always carry it. But it doesn't feel as heavy anymore." "Because of what happened?" "Because of you. Because you reminded me that there are things worth fighting for. Things worth being seen for." Lily squeezed his hand. "Mom would say you're being too dramatic." "Mom would be right." "She usually was." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the morning crowd filter in and out. Normal people living normal lives. The kind of life Marcus had thought he wanted. Now he knew better. He didn't want a normal life. He wanted a meaningful one. One where he could protect the people he loved without hiding from the world. One where his skills could be used to help instead of hurt. One where his daughter could grow up knowing exactly who her father was, and loving him anyway. The pancakes arrived with 4 little syrup cups, exactly as promised. Lily arranged them in a perfect row before opening the first one. The ritual was unchanged from 3 months ago, from 3 years ago, from all the breakfasts they'd shared since Sarah's death. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Do you think Mom can see us?" Marcus looked at his daughter. It was a question she'd asked before, usually late at night when the grief hit hardest. He'd never known quite how to answer. I think she's always with us. Maybe not in a way we can see or touch, but in the way you smile, in the way you laugh, in the things she taught both of us." "That's not really an answer." "It's the best one I have." "Do you talk to her? In your head?" "Sometimes, when things get hard." "What does she say?" "She tells me I'm being stubborn, that I need to trust people more, that I need to stop blaming myself for things I couldn't control." "She's right." "She usually is." Lily grinned. "I say that too. I know. That's how I know she's still with us." They finished breakfast and walked out into the morning sun. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the smell of fallen leaves and wood smoke. It reminded Marcus of the day this had all started, the morning he'd thought was just another ordinary Saturday. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Are we going to be okay?" Marcus stopped walking. He knelt down until he was at eye level with his daughter. "We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be great."
How do you know?
Because we have each other. Because we survived the worst thing that could happen and came out stronger. Because your mother raised an amazing daughter, and I'm going to do everything I can to live up to her example. Lily smiled.
That's a lot of becauses.
You deserve a lot of becauses.
Can I add one?
Of course.
Because you're my daddy, and daddies protect their kids, whatever it takes.
Marcus pulled her into a hug, the same fierce, tight hug he'd given her in the basement of the safe house. The same hug he'd given her after Sarah's funeral. The same hug that said everything words couldn't. Whatever it takes, he repeated. They walked back toward the base, hand in hand, father and daughter. Behind them, Murphy's Diner continued its morning routine. Waitresses poured coffee. Customers complained about the weather. Life went on, unchanged and unconcerned with the drama that had unfolded within its walls. But the regulars remembered. They'd tell the story for years to come. The quiet man in the worn jacket, who'd stood up to a bully, protected his daughter, and brought down a general without throwing a single unnecessary punch. They'd talk about the tattoo they'd glimpsed on his wrist, the dagger crossed with lightning, the mark of a phantom. And they'd remember the lesson he'd taught them without ever saying a word. True strength doesn't announce itself with swagger and threats. It sits quietly in corner booths, cutting pancakes for small children. It absorbs insults and injuries without responding in kind. It waits, patient and still, until innocence needs protection. And when it finally moves, it moves with a purpose that nothing can stop. Marcus Cole never became famous. The news coverage faded after a few weeks. The congressional hearings dragged on for years, eventually resulting in reforms that would prevent another General Stone from rising to power. The families got their justice. The guilty were punished. And the ghost who had made it all possible went back to his quiet life, training soldiers and raising his daughter, invisible once more. But those who knew the truth remembered. They remembered that real heroes don't wear capes or seek glory. They push mops and pack school lunches. They hide their scars and their tattoos. They choose peace when violence would be easier. And when their daughters ask if they're safe, they look them in the eyes and make promises they'll die to keep. Because that's what fathers do. That's what love demands. And that is a strength no army can defeat. 1 year later, on the anniversary of that fateful morning, Lily added a new tradition to their breakfast ritual. She raised her glass of orange juice and said, "To Mom, for teaching us how to be brave." Marcus raised his coffee cup. "To Mom." "And to you, Daddy, for showing me what brave looks like." Marcus smiled. "I learned from the best." They clinked their glasses together, father and daughter, in a small booth at Murphy's Diner. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, a family that had been broken found itself whole again. Not because the wounds had healed completely, not because the memories had faded, but because they'd discovered something stronger than grief, more powerful than fear, more lasting than any enemy. They'd discovered each other, and that was enough. That was everything.